All right, here we go. Ready? Okay. You sure you're ready, Hassan?
Let me just text my mom real quick.
Are you recording?
Yeah, I think we should be recording while he's texting his mother.
Hey.
Let me know when you're ready.
And good.
Welcome to YKY Mother Podcast, a multi-generational discussion of movies.
Welcome to the party, pal!
I'm Ralph Quartrucci.
I'm Sean Murphy.
I'm Hassan.
And we have another guest. It's the same guest from another podcast, and you are?
Michelle WOJO Wojciechowski.
And again, what can we call you?
You can call me WOJO.
And lucky for us, WOJO picked the movie for this podcast, and WOJO picked?
The Spanish Prisoner. Written and directed by David Mamet.
Mamet. Is that how you pronounce that?
I thought it was.
Mamet.
Mamet?
Yeah. Sorry, we'll do it again.
Oh,
wait. Are you sure?
Hey, he said Paradiso, so...
My Italian is...
Mamet? See, this is what happens. 7 semesters of college French, it screws you up.
Wow.
I think technically speaking, your pronunciation should be correct.
I'll say Mamet. Okay.
But in Chicago, they changed his name to Mamet. Yeah.
And technically speaking, Al is not on our... Well, he's here with us, but he just got back from a trip from Germany, and he's being deprogrammed in a bunker somewhere, and that's why he sounds so funny. Al, could you say hello from wherever you are, please?
Hi, I'm in the deepest depths of a German Stasi bunker. Please send help.
Right. So there you go. So Al is somewhere we don't know, but he's going to listen and make sure we're recording okay. So back to the movie. So Spanish Prisoner by David Mamet. Oh, that sounds so. Why don't you describe the movie a little bit, and then we'll show a little preview for us here, and we will talk about it afterwards.
Okay. Well, this is one of my favorite movies that I think is really underappreciated. Came out in '97. It stars Campbell Scott as a guy named Joe Rossi, and Steve Martin plays a bad guy, which I think is one of the reasons why I liked it so much. Jimmy Dell. So basically, it's what I like about this movie is it's very neo-noir, and so the basic storyline is this guy Joe Rossi has invented this technical process for a company. And it's hidden. He carries the only book that has it written down. It keeps it in a safe. And at a company getaway, he meets up with Steve Martin, who puts this idea in his head that perhaps he's not getting paid as much as he should from the company where he works. And this actually sets off this whole, it's this situation where Joe is going down, It's just a magnificent movie. I don't want to give out all the spoilers right away.
But we do before
yes.
it's over.
But
we do spoil the movie.
Yeah, we will.
And anyway, we're going to watch a preview, and then we'll get back to it.
Something big, huh? That's what they all think back home, something big.
Could be something big.
What is it?
Sworn to secrecy. Without the formula, the Japanese, or anyone else for that matter, would have nothing.
You're asking us to consider making a vast investment.
I want to know, what do we own?
Obviously, we don't want to get too specific for security reasons.
Mr. Ross, take a picture, sir?
Sure.
I'll give you $1,000 for that camera.
Ever get the urge to do something adventurous, in spite of the ancient wisdom against inter-office romances?
I think you're a lovely young woman.
Can you see without those things?
Sure.
Why don't you take them off?
The fella said we must never forget that we are human. And as humans, we must dream. And when we dream of money.
Everybody on vacation's got a story.
What do you do?
I'm with the FBI.
Campbell Scott, Rebecca Pidgeon, Steve Martin, Ben Gazzara, Ricky Jay, Felicity Huffman.
We have no idea who anyone is. Like they say at the airport, did anyone give you a package?
You mistrust everybody?
Just strangers.
You now have a Swiss bank account, code word Patty.
Why?
Critics call it David Mamet's best foray into filmmaking.
Mr. Ross, you're in a lot of trouble.
I've done nothing wrong.
Now, Mr. Ross, if I told you this story, would you believe it?
A taut, intriguing tale.
It is the oldest confidence game on the books. The Spanish Prisoner. The man who supplies the money gets the fortune and the girl.
I believe we have a problem.
People aren't that complicated, Joe. Good people, bad people. They generally look like what they are.
The Spanish Prisoner.
Why are so many people having such difficulty?
That's the question baffles me.
This came out in when? You said 97?
97.
Wow.
Yeah.
That preview looks like it was... I'm popping my peas. I can't help it. All right, so, yeah. Tell us about it. And then we'll have some conversation about it.
Okay. Well, the main character is Joe, and he basically winds up being the schlub who you can't tell if it's so much that he's being gaslighted by everyone, but he meets Steve Martin, this guy named Jimmy. For some reason, now this is the only thing about the movie that I've never been able to get it together in my mind. He meets Jimmy just for a very short period of time, and Jimmy says, "Oh, we have to meet up in New York, blah, blah, blah. You have to, will you take this package to my sister?" You know, and boom, he's like the guy's best friend. He says, you know, Jimmy says, "I'll give you $1,000 for that camera," because he has taken a picture that has Steve Martin in the background.
With friends of his wife, supposedly.
Who
the
is
thing about the
supposed
movie
to
is you don't know what is...
You don't know what's true.
What's true, what's not true, and it's sinister from the get-go.
Yes.
You feel like everything is about, they're showing the airport, and there's a sign as they're panning in the airport. Never,
that's the first scene.
Right, if somebody has your bags,
gives you a package,
right?
Don't accept it.
So right away they're saying what the movie's about. What Steve Martin do? He gives them a package to take home.
Right. And what does he do? He takes it because he's, you know, Mr. Boy Scout nice guy, until Susan, played by Rebecca Pidgeon, who's David Mamet's wife.
The second wife.
Playing a very quirky, happy, bubbly.
But if you her voice and the way she says her lines remind me very much of a noir. That's where I think part of that comes in, because she's
lines, everybody's lines.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
Mamet speak.
I actually read that Mamet gets his actors to speak with a metronome going.
Well, you can see that.
Yeah. Which was pretty interesting.
Repetitive.
But there's foreshadowing. You know, she keeps saying things to him like, "You never know who anybody really is."
Right.
You know, and she's talking about mules and talking about packages and people. And finally, he decides to open it to see what it is. And I'm thinking, you know, you've met this guy for like 2 seconds. He wants to introduce you to his sister. And sure, I'll take a package. And I'm thinking, yeah, this was before 9/11, when people just walked on and took things and did, you know.
But her whole, okay, so there's things going on that are setting the whole thing up.
Exactly.
Including pictures being taken. You don't know whether he came in on that seaplane, right? The whole idea of how rich is this guy? He walks up. I think the reason Joe was so connected to the Steve Martin character was that they were complimenting each other, right? He offers them $1,000. And it's all about their manners, right? It's all about manners.
Yeah.
And how manners hide what's really going on underneath this whole movie, because the businessmen are all mannered about the money they're going to make, and don't worry, Joe, you're going to be taken care of. And you're right, Steve Martin's character was putting a bug in his ear saying, these guys might be, you know, but you know, obviously it opens up to a whole nother.
What hooked them is that Martin was, by his own definition, very crass when he offered him, because Joe is like, well, if this is important to you,
just take it.
Just take it. Right.
And that, you know, and that's, I think, the bond, because then Steve Martin confesses that he should not have approached him in that way. And the great thing about it, and the great thing about a con man is that, because, you know, for spoiler, it's all a con, is that when he sees him the next time in New York, Martin won't give him the time of day.
Right.
And, you know, to me, that's the whole hinge of the entire con, because they must have really read Joe right, because if Joe would have just taken it and said, well, okay, then I'm not going to see you anymore, if he'd have just walked away, that would have been over. But instead, he was indignant enough to say, hey, why are you treating me with this disrespect?
Right.
And this bonding over the fact that, well, I want you to meet my sister, and that's what we agreed on. It's like, no, that is what we agreed on. Well, maybe I was mistaken. So Jimmy, although he's rich and powerful, or seemingly so, sort of confesses, you know, hey, you know, I misread this situation. You were right. You know, although Martin is off-putting at times, he's also apologetic. And and then it seems like, if you're Joe, you would think, well, we've had these two little things, and he's admitted he's wrong. Then you can accept his generosity, because now, like when he says, oh, I'm going to make you a member of the club. Oh, you've never had a Swiss bank account? Here's how you do it. And sets it up.
And everything, little things are being set up the whole time.
Joe is not a sucker because they've had enough give and take in the relationship.
Right.
That it doesn't seem, it seems like Martin is really just saying it's his way of making amends. His generosity is his way of making amends for being insulting.
Right. But I find it interesting and somewhat even ironic that Joe he gets upset that he potentially is not going to get enough money for this process he's invented. But a couple times in the film, he said, like when he upgrades Susan's ticket, and she says, he says, I don't need this money.
Yeah.
I don't need this. I don't need. And then when Steve Martin offers him $1,000, he's like, I don't. If that's that important to you, take it.
The money he bought that ticket with the casino money that his friend won, right? So it was like
they were going to split the money.
But still, if he
was really wanted money,
no, they picked a guy who was naive and giving and didn't expect
and
trusting.
He's trusting, but he's also stands up for himself. Even in his relations with Jimmy, it's sort of like, well, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. Why are you being rude to me?
Well, he was incredulous that why are you blaming me for something I didn't do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, I would have walked away. I would have said, screw this guy.
They set him up from the beginning because right from the, I'll give you $1,000 for that camera. It was like, they called it a confidence trick. It's just like, it kind of like challenged him. So like him saying, I don't need the $1,000 was like him like, throwing out like this machismo vibe kind of thing.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of machismo in his, like, hey, what, you want this camera? Is this important to you?
Yeah, just take it.
Yeah,
right.
Just take
I don't need your money. Yeah. I'm fine.
Yeah. But he's being set up from day one because Rebecca Pidgeon.
They read him.
Well, Rebecca Pidgeon is part of the setup from the minute.
I think he's missing out on that little office crush that's going on.
Well, she's really.
I think she could hardly be more obvious.
Right. Yeah.
But you don't. I mean, I know we're spoiling it because we spoil everything, but we don't.
It's a movie about a con, so
we don't figure that out until her participation until further down the movie.
I love her reaction when she gets caught. It's like, oh well, it's the money, and then she's like with Jimmy, it's like, oh well,
it was so slight. It was just him staring at her that she was like,
but she go ahead.
Yeah. And I was like, that was it. That's the big reveal. Like,
well, he saw her. Didn't he see her with the FBI agent lady? The woman
yeah.
So he figured it out.
Right. Yeah, but plus, her noticing that he knew was just like,
because she, she goes, oh,
we're jumping to
way ahead.
But
I do want to point out, I he didn't have as much a role in this, I think, as he did in like House of Games, but. Like Ricky Jay
is great and all. He had a small part in this one, but
and sort of like Alfredo, he always seems to have a story or a quote or something. Alfredo.
Well, he's got the whole Mamet speak down.
Yeah, he's got that Mamet speak.
All of them do. They have to, like you said, if they're training on a metronome.
Right.
Which I think what's his name does too, probably. Yeah. Who's the guy that does West Wing? Who's that writer?
Oh, Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah. If you listen to that patter, that's kind of you get that.
Yeah.
This Mamet, and Hassan and I have been joking all week. I've been talking to him like, the way they repetitive, the way they repeat.
Right.
I wouldn't want to intrude. Why would I want to intrude? I didn't want to intrude.
I noticed that too.
It pissed me off so much.
And it sometimes watching this movie reminded me of watching a play. Yeah. Which is very different. I don't find like when I watch a play, I always know it's a play. But sometimes when I'm watching a movie, I can become enveloped in the story so much that it's not like I feel like I'm suddenly in the show. You know what I mean?
This movie is not.
You know what? I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
it's a play. It's a play.
Well, have you ever seen Mamma Mia?
With the
ABBA movie.
Okay.
I saw the play, and I'm not a big fan of ABBA. I hate ABBA. But I saw the play, and I actually enjoyed it.
What is wrong with you?
Come on. Are you telling me people here actually like ABBA?
You throwing shade at ABBA?
Dancing Queen?
Don't diss ABBA.
My gosh.
Oh, wow.
Well, okay.
Respect it.
I don't respect them quite enough as I should, perhaps.
Maybe.
But, the funny thing is, did you see Mamma Mia?
No.
I know, Mamma
I saw parts of it.
I bought it as a play. But then later, when they made it in a movie, it just... The plot line is really kind of sleazy, but as in the artificial environment of a play, of a musical, it lacks the realism that allows you to take it at its own intention. Mm-hmm. But then when it became a movie, the medium gave it more realism, which made it like, I don't like this. Plus, it had Pierce Brosnan singing. You know, so but I think Mamet is like this, and obviously he was a playwright before he was a writer. But I always amuses me about Mamet, the writer, is that you know, all the screenwriting books, and everybody tells you have to have a unique voice for all your characters. All of his characters, like Woody Allen's characters, if you like the movies Woody Allen's not in, the hero always ends up talking just like Woody Allen, and then, you know, and pretty much all the other characters do too. But Mamet, it is really true. Everybody talks the same.
The patter is the same.
The patter.
I mean, they're still unique. Steve Martin's Jimmy Dell is still Jimmy Dell. Rebecca Pidgeon, you know,
yeah,
but the patter is the same.
It's not, you know, but the pattern is the same.
Pattern,
you know, it is
pattern,
very
not
much
pattern.
Pattern. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is a pattern.
It's a pattern of patter.
Right.
Pattern.
Yeah, it is a.
You want to say that a couple times, Ralph? I don't think you'll say that. Yeah.
He keeps popping those peas, and so do I. But you know, but he's still a great writer because he does have an idiosyncratic vision that is really fabulous, and I enjoy, you know, listening to his people talk. And
well, that's what I'm. Okay, so it's not cinematic. It's staged. Okay?
Yes, it's very staged.
So what you're paying attention to is the information you're getting from what the characters are saying, and they're saying it in such a way that you really have to pay attention, because the repetitive pattern doesn't help you figure out what's going on. You're kind of going, what are they saying? Like even Ed O'Neill, when he's doing his, Ed O'Neill breaks down what the Spanish Prisoner con is.
Which is not really what this con is.
No,
at
it
all.
isn't. That's what I mean. Spanish Prisoner con has nothing to do with the con we're seeing, but they're using it as a way for him to distract Joe while they're doing whatever finagling they did.
Well, because he takes the
process,
the red book, the process, and puts it up on the shelf, and then he talks to him, and we never see the book get changed.
Yeah,
right.
But it obviously is later.
Something happened, and they're distracting Joe with, okay, check the microphone. You sure you can hear me?
It's like the sleight of hand.
Give him a word.
But
give
like
him a word.
This one, like
okay, your word is, you know, like everybody repeats it. Give him a word.
Give him a word. What's the word? The word is this. Here's the word.
Joe,
happiness. You got that, Joe? Joe, you got that?
It's funny
word?
that's the word.
Right?
Yeah, happiness.
That's like House of Games, which came out before this one.
Yeah, a couple years.
Another non-cinematic, great movie where people are pulling off a con and you have to pay attention to everything going on.
Yeah, except that one had Lindsay Krause in it.
She was. I don't know what your problem with her is. She's great.
She was great in Slapshot. She was great in The Verdict.
She was very, you know.
Yeah.
She, you know, talk about a one-note character. That was her in that movie, except for the end when she flips a little bit.
Yeah.
But that and Glengarry Glen Ross, right?
Yeah.
Glengarry Glen Ross. I've never seen the play, but I understand. Fantastic play, fantastic movie.
Yeah.
But it's staged like a play. They're in, you know, it's.
Well, Mamet did that too. You know that, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Of course.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
That one. No, that one where I've been, you know, go to lunch, will you?
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it because I felt like
you talking about Spanish Prisoner.
Yeah. No, I just didn't like the dialogue itself because it felt. I guess watching it from the beginning, I was like, "What's going on?" Because they obviously are trying to hint at something. Something isn't right. Someone's trying to pull something, and then starts I'm like. How's he just falling for it? Like, obviously, something's up. Like, they're the worst actors ever.
Well, she's there as a distraction for him.
Right.
The whole time she's hitting on him.
But the whole time, also, the way she's talking, I'm just like something's up with her.
But you know that. He doesn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he goes to her when he realizes
when he
something's
needs help.
wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
When that's the Ricky J
yeah.
murder or whatever happened, right?
And she's like, I believe you. You're an honest guy. I trust you.
Right?
I believe you.
When it all
You're
starts
a Boy Scout.
unraveling.
You're a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
And the other thing he's doing, you notice in the movie all the Japanese people that are throughout the film.
That's hilarious at the end.
When he's not at the end, throughout. Because you ever notice how Japanese people are always around monuments?
Nobody pays attention to the
Japanese. And Steve Martin's character brings it up.
Yeah.
And it ends up being his downfall. But it's just interesting the way they layered the thing. But it's very straightforward, and you have to listen to what they're saying, and you still get confused. And the other nice scene is when he writes on the chalkboard how much money they're going to make.
Yeah.
And you
never see it. Exactly.
I can understand what Hassan is like. When they talk about the process and the amount of money, they are deliberately coy. But it also makes the film universal, too, because now it's like that it's whatever we imagine the amount is. It's whatever we
Well, and the process is in the
like
MacGuffin.
$1,000.
We don't know. $1 million. But we don't know what the process is.
Yeah.
For a widget.
Yeah.
Do you even make widgets anymore?
You know, don't talk to me about it. I don't know about what was it? You know, Steve Martin's like, I don't know any. You know, it's like, you know, because he deflects. Like when he's about to tell him what the process is, he's like,
I don't want to know it. And when he says, I can get you, my lawyer can sit with you, but I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be there. And he said, and then Joe says, no, I want you to come because this is, you know, I'm thinking Joe's in this. That was one weird thing I thought. You know, Joe's in this. Working for this corporation. He seems like he's got a decent head on his shoulders. And then Steve Martin says, oh, come and talk to my lawyer. Like Joe knew no other lawyers in the history of,
again, we're back to Joe as a trusting, naive guy.
And he couldn't go to Ricky Jay because Ricky Jay works for the company.
Exactly.
But Ricky Jay was his best friend.
Yeah.
Right.
But he still works for the company.
Right. But the whole time that seed was being planted by everybody around him that you better watch out. You better get the money you deserve. And I don't know how soon that started when they were out there on the island, but he definitely had it in his head that these guys are going to try to pull one over on me because he kept trying to have a conversation with Ben Gazzara, his boss.
Yeah.
And they kept, pushing him away. Well, that's where Jimmy Dell goes in there and goes, hey, and it's just boom. Once he had him.
Did you notice who else had a very small role in this? Jonathan Katz, who did the Dr. Katz cartoon. He was one of the lawyers, right? Yeah, he was one of the lawyers. Yeah. I think the reason I liked this movie so much because I saw it, within a year or two after it had been out when it came out.
Did you see it in the theaters?
No, I saw it on VHS at Cranbrook Video because the guy suggested it to us. Video. Yes. Because everyone who worked there had to know a lot about movies. So they would always suggest these offbeat things I had never seen. And at the time, in the 90s, Steve Martin was huge in movies. He was in Roxanne and he was in...
all comedies.
Exactly. All of Me, all these different movies. And then I see him in here, and I don't know, have any of you seen Steve Martin play a, quote, bad guy since? I mean, he sort of played a not on the up and up guy in that...
Shop Carol?
No, I didn't see that one.
Kind of sleazy and creepy in that.
I thought that he plays a preacher, and it's got...
Deborah Winger?
Yes, Deborah Winger.
I know
it's
Leap of Faith.
Leap of Faith, that's it. So he plays a little bit smarmy, but not outright nasty.
Right,
and here he is a bad guy.
At the end of it, it's like you don't have to. He's like Joe's pleading with him. You don't have to do this, and he goes, "But I enjoy doing it."
Yeah,
that's what I mean. That's when you realize.
But he was always polite. He goes, "But thanks for your concern."
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's what drew me. I mean, the plot of the movie was good, but seeing Steve Martin in such a different role, and seeing him be this guy that you find out is this really bad guy, I think that's what drew me to liking it so much because it just was this whole different presentation of him as an actor.
That's how I felt about Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I had the same reaction to it. I was like, oh, what? He's not in a comedy movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? And here's something. I generally find, historically, if you look at it, once an actor, a comic actor, starts to play a dramatic role, I think they lose their edge as a comic. I think that was true of Carey. I think it's true of Martin. I think around this was around the time he turned. The comedy was no.
Bill Murray tried it, didn't work out for him.
Yeah, but he took years off, and then before he came back to comedy, there's another example. Chaplin, other people, from the old days. I mean, it's a way around it, but it seems like all these comics, have a desire to be a dramatic actor. I don't know whether it's because they can't face the pressure of outdoing their previous successes as a comedian, and this gives them another way of doing it, or
I think Mamet saw and what I read was Mamet saw that I guess Steve Martin put out poetry or some other books or something, and he saw a side of him that was not that comedy side. And,
and that's when
and it worked out great.
He started doing a lot of stories for the New Yorker, and he wrote a lot of novels and that kind of stuff.
I edited Martin in a thing for MoMA, the Los Angeles Museum. I edited him in a commercial, and the director told me that he was like the least funny guy in person. He was completely like.
I interview a lot of comedians and a lot of comic actors, and some of them are on. When you talk to them, they are on, and others are not. they're just because sometimes I'll write a story and an editor will say, "Well, where's all the funny?" And I'll say, "This is how he or she was."
The funny?
Exactly. You know, now some of them do. They're on, like I said, and they're giving you jokes while you interview them and stuff like that. But some of them are just, they go back to being regular people, you know?
Well, that's gotta be hard to keep, you know.
Yeah.
It's got to be exhausting,
a great run
honestly.
since the 70s. You know, since The Jerk and Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Excuse me. Yeah.
I mean, and all the Saturday Night Live. I mean, he had such a great run. So if you look at it, by the time this film came out, he's already been a comic star.
Oh, yeah. He had done, what hadn't he done? You
know, for 20 years.
Right.
You know, you can't stay on top forever. I mean, not even Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
You know, ever since Adam Sandler started doing more like anger
Did Adam
management.
Sandler get to the top?
He was about the biggest comic star of the 90s, I would say. I don't know what that says about the 90s.
I liked anger management.
Yeah, but what I mean, once he started doing more dramatic roles, I think, you know, I haven't seen the Ridiculous Six yet.
Really?
The what?
The Ridiculous Six, that movie he just made for
Netflix. I didn't see that.
He did another one after that. That was one of his first Netflix.
Yeah.
Is it Magnificent Seven or Hateful?
No, he did
the Hateful.
Which one?
The Hateful Six.
Eight.
No,
it was Seven.
Hateful Eight was Tarantino movie.
So Magnificent Seven was Sandler.
Was Denzel Washington.
No, the Ridiculous Six.
The Ridiculous Six is a spoof of kind of the attitude of Magnificent
Okay, we're
Seven.
off the subject here.
Let's talk about every movie with a number in it, guys.
Have y'all seen Top 5 with Chris Rock?
I really like the 39 Steps a great deal, too, the original version directed by Hitchcock. You know, which did not star Steve Martin. You know, but Martin's a very talented guy. He's also a very good banjo player. You know,
yeah, he is.
You know, and I loved the scene in this movie right at the end. We were talking about when Rebecca Pidgeon sort of is busted, and she just looks over, and then they're in that wide shot, you know, mid to wide, and then you look behind. He's sitting right behind him, like a couple seats.
Well, he's out of focus.
Yeah, he's out of focus.
And he says something
that like a huge surprise to me.
So
like,
Joe is sitting there with her.
Yeah.
Now Joe knows what's going on, but he's still appealing to her. Like, you know, we got something. And Martin turns around. She says, "Okay, I forget her name in the movie. I always forget the name.
Susan.
Susan. What should we do? Kill him."
Yeah.
I mean, she, you know, the sweet little, you know, all the stuff with living over the deli with the sunshine and all that.
Right.
What do we do? Kill him. And that's when that's when he knew he was done.
Yeah.
And I knew something was up with her because she said, well, and it was when she was flirting with him, I just happened to be in the neighborhood, but she brought something from the bakery that she lived over, you know? And Joe's still like,
because she was flirting with him. She was, take your glasses off, you know, let's see what that's all about. And a little inter-office
and then
romance.
she comes out and says, she sits on that ledge in his apartment and says, so what do you think about inter-office romance?
Yeah.
I've never known a girl to be that
set up
with
from
me.
the get.
Yeah. It's so funny his relationship with her because he's half interested, but he's got the potential of Jimmy Dell's sister. So he's like,
he knows nothing about her.
Well, again, that's all part of
because
she knows that, so she knows that Della's going to call that when she's in there flirting with him in his apartment.
Right.
She knows right where to take it up to, where he's ready to go. Right.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy calls and says, "My sister's ready to go play tennis or whatever."
Right.
And you know,
and then
she knows. Now she knows the whole time this is going on.
He's definitely a guy who'll not worry about the bird in the hand. They get,
well, he kept showing. He didn't know what she looked like. And that funny scene where Steve Martin, where he brings him into that place where he looks like he came out of his pool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I love the reveals of all the locations.
And he goes, "Here's a picture of my sister," and they shine like a light, like it's reflecting,
so you can't really see
what
her.
The sister looks
Yeah.
I thought I missed that.
Look.
I was like, maybe I'm just imagining it.
No, they shined a light, so you couldn't see it. It reflected.
See what the sister looks like, right?
And then Joe goes behind it, and he's getting ready to turn it around, and Jimmy says, "Oh, let's go." It was always.
Go have dinner at club night. But
you're
not in the club, and they sign it. All of it. The thing about these con movies, like these big ones, like this one, so everybody's involved.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
The FBI lady who meets him on the island, Felicity Huffman, I think is her name.
Right.
Ed O'Neill's.
Because she was part. They were all part of the con.
All
right?
of them were part of the con,
except for that was the one thing I didn't get. Okay, so Felicity Huffman, Ed O'Neill, they set him up with the mic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, and they're all in on the con, but at the end, the Japanese man who was with the marshal's office says, "Here, you got." Well, how did they get into?
Well, they've been watching him.
No,
the
that
entire time
wasn't
since,
that the Irish, the Eringo Brab thing he put on at the airport.
No,
that was a flower.
He put some microphone on him to record because he says you got to ask him.
But that wasn't the microphone from the FBI guy.
No,
from
well,
Ed O'Neill.
no.
It's a different mic.
Yeah.
I think it was the Eringo Brab thing he got on at the airport in Boston.
But when they get back to the boat, when they get back to land,
Now I'm gonna have to watch the damn movie
real
again.
FBI guys are there with them.
Right,
So obviously
right.
the marshals.
Well, the
and
Japanese
FBI's
guy was the real FBI guy, and it turned
No,
out
he's Marshal Service.
Ben
Marshal
Gazzara
Service,
set the whole thing in motion.
Yeah,
the
boss.
company boss set the whole thing in motion.
Right, because which is so weird because he. Oh gosh, I
From
was
the
just
very
like,
beginning.
ah.
It's like,
well, he knew Joe.
and they slipped at the end. They were like, "Oh, it turns out it was your boss that set the whole thing up."
Yeah.
And he was going to sell it to the Japanese after he's like, please don't sell it to the Japanese.
Right. And I think a couple things are worth mentioning. Joe is played by Campbell Scott, and it's funny. You guys will say, "Oh, he was in this, he was in that," because I looked him up on IMDb, and I said, "Oh, he was in House of Cards." I haven't watched the most recent House of Cards. He was in The Amazing Spider-Man. He was when I saw the guy at the time, I thought, oh, it's the guy from Singles, because that's like the biggest movie ever. But at the very end, when Susan is being put in the van, she turns to Joe and says, "You're such a good man. Can you help me out? Can you help me out?"
What's his line? He says,
and he says, "You need some time in your room."
and I thought, and she respected that. The look she gave was,
and she went like that.
Yeah, she respected.
And I thought, "You're smiling?
Right.
What is wrong with you people?"
Yeah.
Can you help me? You're the Boy Scout. Can I be your good deed for today? Can't you help me, Joe?
I'm afraid you're going to have to spend some time in your room.
But I do think Steve Martin was a real revelation in this movie. I wish he'd played more roles like that. But I just love this thing at the end. It's sort of like, you don't have to do this, but I enjoy doing this. But thank you for your concern.
Right.
To me, but here's, of course, we're seeing if you're imagining, first time you take everything as is. Second time even you take it as is. I saw this originally in New York when I was up there doing an editing project, and I came like.
With whom?
With Brian Keller and Barry Shapiro. And then I came back to Baltimore and saw it with some folks. I can't name them all.
Barry Shapiro from the O.J. Simpson trial?
No, that's a different Shapiro.
That's a different. It's Robert Shapiro.
Oh, that's
right.
Robert
Shapiro.
Who was Barry? Barry was the.
Barry Shapiro was a New York.
No,
director.
Barry was the DNA guy. What was his name? Barry Sheck.
Barry Sheck. Yeah, Barry. Between the names, there's a full OJ in there.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I saw the film twice, in the theaters, and the one thing that's odd is obviously the bad guys have thought out the entire thing. But reality, Campbell Scott, what's his name again? Sorry,
Campbell Scott.
Joe
Rossi.
Joe becomes aware of it by something they didn't anticipate.
Exactly.
That's always
the woman, the mother.
I
mean, the
the
woman
book.
who is supposed to be the sister is like
an old
8,000 years old with her aide walking in.
Well, that he finds out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
an
not
accident.
something. That was not
because
something
he tries to
they
get an
planned.
extra present for her.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
He's
right.
like-
That's
Right.
what messed the whole thing
he's
up.
the Boy Scout.
He bought that picture for her.
The signed picture.
Right.
But he was going to end up having. So in a sense, that's sort of like would be in some ways a flaw, but because they'd already set up Felicity Huffman as McCoon, that eventually and Rebecca Pidgeon was always like, she was always breeding the suspicion. So even had he not been exposed at that moment, they obviously had some sort of plot for him to grow suspicious so they could contact the FBI, because it was ultimately the FBI people that stole the book and not Steve Martin.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all the same
fake
group.
FBI people.
Yeah,
They're all
Yeah.
part of the same. Right.
Stole the
But again,
process.
it was another accident that caused him to figure the whole thing out. When he's at the airport in line, and she sticks the camera bag, which we find out later has a gun in it. So he
Right.
Wait, he missed that.
No.
He missed
He's
the gun.
in line,
Yeah.
and there's a woman there with her kid.
Yeah.
And the kid drops the book.
Yeah.
And the woman says, "Oh, you keep dropping your book. If you keep dropping your book, we're not going to be able to."
I'm not going to give you another book ever.
I'm not going to. So they go.
Yeah,
okay.
And the mother keeps saying, "Eat your brownie, or you don't get to read your book." And I thought, in what universe does a mother say this? You can't read. And you know what the book was? Shel Silverstein, The Giving Tree.
Yeah, it was The Giving Tree. I noticed that.
So, and she's doing the patter. She's also doing the patter, the Mamet patter about just take the book, just take the book. If you don't take the book, I'm gonna write. So she's repeating that. Then Campbell Scott goes, "Oh, the book.
It has the
fingerprint.
fingerprints.
He put the fingerprint on the book.
Right.
Now it just shows you how smart Rebecca Chandler's character is, because with that she goes, okay, we'll go to the Boston airport, right? That's when they
no, that was at the Boston.
No, that was the Boston airport.
That was before Boston.
That happened at the Boston.
And then they had to
went
go
from
back
New York to Boston.
And she's like, "Well, who can we call? Who can we call to go and get the book? Who
Right.
can we call?
Right.
You know, who can we call? Who can we call? Who do we know?
Accidents that cause him to figure out what's going on that they can't predict that.
Yeah,
he was supposed to. The gun was supposed to go through. He gets caught. It's over.
Right. Right.
Right. So that's what the
and
problem
it isn't
with these
until he sees the
can't-
Venezuela. Like, why do you want to go to Venezuela?
Right.
You know, then
and it was an open ticket.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But see, but that kind of thing, like she had to assume that he would upgrade her seat, so then she would still have a ticket that she could present it. I mean, there's so much there.
That may be the biggest leap in the movie.
Yeah,
she was kind of like whining about it, wasn't she? In line or something.
Oh, she was kind of whining about it.
Yes, but he also
like,
had gotten the money from his friend who won at the casino the night before. Luck again.
Yeah.
If he didn't have that money, he might not have bought her the ticket.
Bumped her
so
up.
yeah, you can't. If you start doing this,
well, how did?
Listen, all you need is one cell phone.
Then my head will explode.
Well, he's already.
How did the friend get the money?
He went
to the casino because he was hungover.
What game did he win it in though?
He didn't say.
I don't know.
Maybe he was set up to win the money.
Yeah, you could go all the way back.
Could go deep.
Well, I wouldn't put it past them.
But also, I don't understand. Here's another thing I don't. I mean, I love this movie. Don't get me wrong.
I was just going to say, I think we're starting to crush this movie.
No,
yeah, I know.
No, but it's also
if I leave this podcast hating this movie.
There's a 3-hour version of this movie. You didn't see that one? Explains everything.
And let me guess, he marries Susan.
And it's a happy ending.
Steve
Much
Martin,
different than this one.
It turns out Steve Martin's sister is actually 60 years old, and he wants to have sex with her.
Completely different movie.
He wants her to be.
Ed O'Neill is the hero.
Well, you know, it's funny because he's already like kind of promoting her, you know, Pigeon. You know, it's sort of like he's half interested in her. You know, so it's sort of like, you know, I'm going to give her this. You know, you could tell he's sort of thinking she'd be a, you know.
Well, she's doing what any guy. I mean, she's flirting with him. Flirting. She's, you know, coming on really hard, and
not too bad on the eyes.
Yeah. She's cute. And she's cute. I love her patter. I think she's cute. She was.
Her patter drove me crazy.
Really?
I wanted to punch her in the face.
I
hated it.
She's just quirky enough where you're like, what is going on? And she was.
See, there's certain.
She's not quirky. She's just talking all like them. It's just that men think that as soon as a woman starts talking like a man, oh, she's suddenly different and special.
But she wasn't talking. She was talking.
They were talking.
She was talking like every man in the movie.
Every man
right. They were talking
and
like
every woman in the movie.
A lot of his characters too. They speak and give these profound quotes that most people do not do on a regular basis. You know, so
Alfredo was
a couple of them. A couple of them are like. Someone I didn't write down who said it, so I'm not that good. But anyway,
Ricky Jay says most of them.
We'll show a clip.
Beware of all enterprises that require new clothes.
Yeah, that was Ricky.
You know,
no, that was Jim. Was that Jimmy?
That might have been Jimmy Dell.
It might have been Jimmy Dell. Yeah. I put a thief in my mouth to steal my brains.
Yeah,
that's an old
Ricky
Shakespeare quote.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'm not saying that because I know it. I read that.
Oh, okay.
Let's just be clear.
And she repeated. Like Hassan. I'm terrible with names.
Oh, it's fine.
I have such a good memory, except for names.
Same first and last name.
Hassan. Your same first and last name?
Hassan. Yes.
Okay. But you hate the repetition in this movie.
But I hate the repetition in this movie.
Okay, I understand that completely.
I dislike the repetition.
I didn't think of that. Yeah, no wonder you hate it.
There's actually a third. There's actually another Hassan in my middle name.
I never thought of that.
And I really hate the repetition in this movie.
So do people just call you...
Okay.
I used to scream to him from one side of the building when I'd see him, Hassan, and then he'd like run off.
I can't imagine why. But a number of times Susan says, you never really know who anybody is.
Yeah.
And not just in that one part where she would repeat it,
Yeah.
but like later on, she says it in a different way, the same kind
She
of
does
thing.
a sing-songy thing.
You never really know who anybody
and
is.
it always ends with her saying how smart she is about whatever she just said.
Yeah.
So she was interesting.
She
might have been coming on too strong, but I don't think she wanted to actually get involved with.
No, it was all
she was
part
never
of the
going to get
con.
involved.
Yeah.
She was just going to take it up to
what
a
I
point.
mean, it wasn't part of the con for her to be romantic with. It was just to be a distraction.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what
Because the ideal was Jimmy Dell's sister.
Right.
So
But
she's coming on.
there.
Let's face it, she's coming on pretty hard.
Right, and it wouldn't have surprised me at the end if they didn't have, like, she was Jimmy Dell's wife, and you know what I mean, or lover or something.
But I'm thinking she was, she was coming on very hard. Some guys don't like it. Some guys, don't like that. But I think you would be accepting of that, would you, Ralph?
I'm always accepting. I like anybody that likes me.
Yeah. So
that's my motto.
But I think she was coming on hard deliberately to be a little off-putting to him.
Yeah.
So in order to keep the thing stringing out,
Well, keep
but
him
enough that
uncomfortable.
shows that he could tell she's interested, therefore he could trust her.
Right.
I mean, that's what, if he was stupid.
It worked because he
Yeah.
went to her when everything started happening. He goes right to her.
Yeah.
Right.
And she was very industrious trying to figure out what to do. My favorite scene with her and him is when they're at the New York airport.
Mm-hmm.
And they see the cop. She says, something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the cop's coming over, and he says to her, pretend like we're having a fight.
Good morning, ma'am, sir.
Scream at me. Scream at me.
Well, this is the end. This is the end, you stupid Mick. Do you think I wanted to go? Do you think I wanted to go to your drunken family? You call it a holiday? It's a disgrace. It's 8 in the morning and you are drunk and you forgot the tickets and you expect me to drive home.
Ma'am, could you please pull your car over?
I'm not pulling the car over. I am not going to Toronto and I am not going anywhere but dump this disgrace at home. You think it's charming? You think it's all Irish and charming to behave this way? You disgust me.
All right, move on. Keep moving out of the terminal.
You bet I'm gonna keep moving out of the terminal. Don't you smile at me.
Come on,
That was the one time where she broke.
She broke.
With a pattern.
Right.
Yeah.
With a pattern of pattern.
Right.
Pattern
That was a
pattern.
normal,
Pattern.
emotional scene that is not in
exactly.
any of his movies like this.
Yeah.
And then he's looking at her,
Right.
and she's
He's
like,
like,
and when
what?
she's done, she's like,
Right. Let's go to Boston.
See, to me, that would have set me off that this girl can act. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
would worry me.
But
That-
again, you're putting yourself in, like you're watching the movie and you're saying he's supposed to figure all this out.
Well,
he's
and
actually
yeah,
there,
Yeah.
and everybody's there to
thinking too
confuse
much.
him. It's like
Yeah.
they're purposely trying to confuse the guy,
Yeah.
keep him off his game because they're trying to
He
get
had
at
no
what
I mean,
he
it's
has.
just
He
like
had
when
no
his
chance.
friend has been stabbed to death and it happens to have his knife
his
that
knife.
says "Be prepared." We have no idea how they got it, but you have to
Well,
at
here's
one
the
point
thing. He's an
suspend
Eagle Scout.
reality.
We all watched this movie. Why was it necessary to kill Ricky Jay?
I was asking the same thing to set
frame
him
him.
up, to frame him.
Oh, to frame him
Yeah,
for
to
murder.
frame him.
That's
They're
why
gonna-
Ricky Jay doesn't
and he
have
left
any
his
knowledge.
and he left his bloody glasses there.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And I thought, you moron! If you were going to get rid of those glasses, you should have done it like an hour ago.
Yeah, well, he wasn't
Yeah.
again. He wasn't thinking like that, and then that's why the Boston scene became so important with the X-ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And seeing the gun go through the
Yeah.
through the X-ray. Again, they set that up at the very beginning when they're showing the X-rays when they're on the
Yeah.
island.
Yeah.
And they never trust anybody if you hand you something. It's
Right,
all about
right.
X-ray and
Yeah.
And it's funny that she's the one who mentions so often about trust.
Yeah.
And yet she was not only involved in the con, but she gave him the gun.
She's
and,
planting the seed, and like the whole thing about like, oh, I didn't see that guy. The guy wasn't on the plane. He didn't get on the plane. Like he.
Well, again,
he was
that's
never
just-
on
yeah,
that
right.
helicopter.
Her
She's
job-
planting the seed
And
to
by the
make
way,
him
that picture
question
never
Jimmy
proved
Dell.
any. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That picture never proved anything.
Her job was to make him distrustful of
Everything.
of Jimmy Dell
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah, so he
Yeah.
goes
Because
to
he
the,
had to
so
go
he
to
could
the
go
FBI agent.
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole key to the con. Was eventually he was going to be so desperate he was
Right.
going to go to that specific FBI agent
Right,
who he already
right.
met. You know, so whether he discovered something himself or whether he was led to something, he eventually had to make that phone call.
The one that she just so happened to in the beginning go like, oh, turns out she actually is an FBI agent.
Yeah.
Just can't trust anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's you guys have got to see House of Games if you haven't seen that one yet.
Well, you know what my favorite Mamet film is
so
of the ones that he's sort of like were really his films, and not the ones he brought in on a writer like maybe Ronin or
was Glengarry his?
Yeah,
but
but
he didn't
no, my
direct it.
favorite is Homicide. The one shot in
I
Baltimore
like that
with
Joe Montana.
Yeah, that is such a and it
You're
takes
right.
some real interesting moral choices.
I like Joe Montana.
Did you ever see Homicide?
No.
You should
No.
definitely
That's a good
see it.
one.
It was shot at like the brewer.
I
that
need a
big
pen.
Old
Does
brewer
someone have a
factory.
pen?
Right this
I'm not
second.
going to remember any
Homicide,
of these.
we'll remember that. Just listen to the podcast.
Oh my
It might
God,
be- it
I
might
have
be a
to
month
listen
from
to
now.
this too.
Yes, you have to listen to this.
Oh my God, you
Yeah,
didn't
'cause
tell
you'll
me
be the
that,
sixth
Sean.
person.
You didn't tell me I had to listen to it.
But now you can download it on
On
iTunes.
iTunes.
Right.
And listen to it in your car.
That's right.
Find us on
It's
iTunes
available
at
on iTunes.
YKY Mother Podcast.
And
I
YouTube.
love the name of this. You know what I love about being here? Besides
kitchen is clean?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I've heard. I love that you guys notice little things. Like I said, oh, the book was Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree. And you said, yeah, it was The
that's
Giving Tree.
one of my
I
favorite
like
books
that you guys notice
by
that
Shel
stuff,
Silverstein.
you know, because I feel like I'm the only one who's saying, look at this. And dude, you know, it's...
No, that's what's fun about this. And,
Yeah.
And in fact, if I didn't notice that, it doesn't matter. I noticed something else, right? 'Cause
Right.
everybody's picking whatever
Right,
is your sweet spot. And it's fascinating. And we did this with the Paradiso one, the difference between the 2 hour and the 3 hour. That's what we're making jokes about.
Which is so funny because when we originally thought to do the podcast, we had no conception that that's the way the podcast would go.
No, of course not. That's
And had you not, Wojo, had you not watched that version, we would not have been as intelligent talking.
No, but it just shows
I remember
You would have been
I sent her a
mispronouncing
message
it.
on Facebook and said, "Be sure to watch the 2 hour version." You're like, "I'm almost done the 3 hour."
Because actually, my first reaction was, wait a minute. There's a 2 hour version.
So the disc didn't have. Well, we shouldn't get back. Let's stay.
no,
on
stay
that.
not. Yeah.
I tell you what.
And you know what? I don't
really,
Okay,
wanna
we'll just
know.
cut it back into the other episode.
I really loved Homicide. It was a very morally complex, you know, and that's a story about it where Montagna's in it, and he's a detective, and he's a Jewish detective, oddly enough, played by an Italian, and he gets a chance to break the law to help out some, to stop some anti-Semitism, and then those people essentially blackmail him with what he did in order to do other stuff.
You know, and some of the other movies I had suggested to you, I'm realizing now, have a similar theme to them. Like, so I suggested The Spanish Prisoner. I suggested Arlington Road, where things are not as they seem.
That's a good.
Yeah. And
Directed by
Jeff
a
Bridges at his
Baltimorean.
best. You're talking about the Jeff Bridges one, right?
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Tim Robbins.
Sorry, if we do that one, we'll be ringing the bell because I had a very odd
Oh,
thing.
Tim
with him.
Robbins, right? Tim Robbins played against.
Really against
Type,
really against, because I think he had been in Shawshank Redemption before then, and everybody fell in love with him, with that. And then what was the other movie I suggested to you? Murder of Crows, which I think 5 people
I have not
seen.
seen that one. I will.
I
say.
have that movie. I could lend it to you.
What's it called?
It's
Murder of
Crows,
Crows?
because that's what a group of crows is called, a murder
Yeah.
of crows. But it stars Cuba Gooding Jr.
Back to our movie or your movie. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to. Did we talk about the
Favorite
pattern?
and scenes and least favorite?
Well, my favorite scene was the one where she flips on him and does the argument at the airport. What's your favorite scene?
I just love the end where not the end, but when she figures out that he's on to her and she just lets the mask down, and she's so evil, and then Jimmy's there and he goes out there and he's so evil, but still maintaining this veneer of politeness.
Right.
What was the idea? I was to be shot at the airport?
Can I ask what you plan to do with me?
I don't know.
Something probably understanding, though, knowing you.
I suppose you think that makes me weak.
No.
I'm just so sorry I can't be that generous.
And we come to the end of a perfect
day.
Clang, clang, end of the line.
What's he been telling you?
Sweet nothings. Well, should we wrap it up?
So how does it end?
Well, it appears you stole, you killed, you kidnapped her. You did it all for the money, and now, overcome with remorse, you took your own life.
What could be more appropriate?
And if I don't cooperate?
I'm afraid you have no choice.
Why?
Because money makes the mayor go.
Nobody lives forever.
Nobody lives forever. The important thing is to enjoy yourself. Kill him.
And I don't know, I don't have a least favorite scene because there's like every scene works together. Even stuff that seems kind of absurd. Because I mean, she's, for a girl that's interested in a guy at an office that she doesn't really know, she's really pushy.
Yeah, she.
But you understand.
Yeah, but it
she's
works.
doing that
it
on
works.
purpose.
Yeah.
That's her
But
act.
see,
She's
but
not,
how did they know that he wasn't going to respond to her? Like after the 5th time she pushes herself on him.
I think she was.
Because
I
if she
think
had
it was at the
responded to
point-
him, it would have changed the con.
I think
would.
she was there just to watch him. I think
Yeah.
Steve
Yeah.
Martin was setting it up with the sister. And I think that her character, Rebecca Pidgeon's character, was there to keep an eye on him, keep him in line. And yes, if she could use some of that, beguiling stuff she's doing to keep him a little bit interested.
Beguiling, maybe?
maybe
I don't
so.
know. It was a little...
Over the top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beguiling is a little coyer than that.
Well, she wasn't that coy. Your favorite scene? WOJO?
Wow.
WOJO? Jeez.
A lot of people do that. They call me Mojo. I'm like, no, that's not it.
You got to remember to get a Polaroid of her, too.
I will.
Okay, now you're freaking me
that
out.
was a
That
weird-
sounds like something
that
that's
came out
in
of-
every serial
gonna-
killer
really-
movie
he was
that's
gonna-
ever
yeah,
been.
so that
He
we
was
can
gonna
have
ask-
that.
He was going to
the
ask your
last
permission
known
first. He
photograph.
was going to ask your permission first. You missed that.
We're getting a call from the bunker.
The machine would like to take a picture.
All right, look at that. Gotta go.
That's why we have no women doing the podcast.
yeah,
Jesus,
I
stop
can't
doing
imagine.
that. Yeah.
My favorite scene. It's not so much my favorite scene for how it looks, but I love when he wants to make that extra step to give the book to Jimmy's sister, and he looks and he says, "Are you sure that's her?" to the doorman, who's like 1,000 years old and who's worked there since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And he says yes, and you see the recognition and the wheels turning.
Yeah.
And that's when he starts. It almost reminds me of at the end of Usual
The
Suspects.
younger, when he goes, no, the younger Emma De Silva.
Yeah.
It's like,
And he
this is
said,
the-
no, this is her. This
Yeah,
is it.
this is the
It
Emma.
reminds me of at the very end of Usual Suspects when all of a sudden the guy realizes that Kevin Spacey is Kaiser Sose.
Whoa,
Wait a
whoa.
second, what? What happened?
Whoa.
No, we're kidding.
Shut up. I was thinking, come
who's
on.
Kaiser Soze?
Give it. Well, we'll never see that movie.
No.
Oh, we're not getting there. Okay.
I have to take I have a poster. I have to take that
But where all of a sudden you see the person, like you don't
When he
actually
realizes-
see
Yeah.
Joe putting all the pieces together like you do in Usual Suspects when all of a sudden you
They
see
flashback
like
on
the,
it,
the postcard and the this and the coffee cup and the this and this. But you just see the note, the wheels turning and you think he's got it.
Yeah.
He knows something is way off here.
I still feel like when he first sees her, he starts thinking, "Oh, he's
Who,
trying
when
to
he
set
sees
me
the
up
old
with
woman?
with a much older lady." Or maybe he's trying to like I kind of thought that he was
Nothing
gonna
wrong
start.
with that.
That's where he started.
I gotta
That's
tell
where
you,
he started.
HHH. That
I
is.
kinda thought he was gonna
I'm
start
sorry.
thinking-
I think that's. Wrong.
I thought he was kind of thinking, he's trying to do all these favors for me, so
See,
I have
this
to
is the whole
marry his
backstory.
sister
He puts all
as
this
another
information inside somebody's
favor.
head.
Yeah.
That is just not there.
It's just like one thing
backstory,
happened. He has
backstory.
no
It's all
other
about
information.
backstory. I need backstory.
I
Otherwise,
think-
how can I go on? What's your favorite scene? I'm pointing to
I
the
gotta
side.
say, it is really tough watching this guy like suddenly get it and like stand up for himself, and when he like talks back to his boss, and then watching it all crumble down like because his boss like pulled all the strings and stuff, and it's just like it's really tough seeing it.
I have one throwaway thing that I just thought was a riot. Okay, so Jimmy's out there and he's ready to shoot.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy gets the dart.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And the female agent.
The female agent who's Asian.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And they go, well, how did you know such a good shot? I don't know what she says.
Oh, yeah. She goes, what if you would have missed?
Yeah.
What if you missed?
Well, then it'd be back to the range for me.
I'd been back on the range again.
It's like,
were they dubbed? Were they dubbed?
No.
Okay.
And she had the most southern accent.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we learned
and
on
she
the
was
range.
even dressed in the Japanese
like
stuff at the time, like the schoolgirl thing with the ponytails, the little and the thing.
But the whole movie, you've been seeing Japanese people everywhere.
Yeah.
And then all
Jimmy even comments.
Well, they were
on
saying we've been watching you since the.
It's amazing. That's when she does that. It's like, what is going on? It's so good. It's so good.
This just talking about this makes me want to see. I didn't realize it was Mammoth with the heist movie.
Oh, Heist is good. Again, it's not very cinematic.
Yeah.
Right. And a heist movie, you kind of want that, but it's so. Sam Rockwell, Gene Hackman, Ricky Jay.
Love Gene Hackman.
Oh my God, Danny DeVito. This is a famous quote. That's why they call it money or something. There's something about that's why they call it money. Same idea. It's this patter, 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 and you got to see it. It's another David. I think it came out after this one.
Oh yeah, it came out. It came out years later. Last one of his movies I think I saw in the theaters was Spartan. Did you see Spartan?
No.
That was pretty good. He's a secret. I think he was.
That was with
Marine. He was like a Secret Service
Val
agent.
Kilmer?
Yeah, Val Kilmer. You know, that's when they were still giving Val Kilmer real movies.
Oh, poor Val. Come on, he's great. Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang.
Definitely one. Like when I saw that movie, I was entirely convinced that might have been one of the best movies.
Which one?
Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang.
Wow,
that was a really good movie.
That was right before.
It might have just been like the high from it that made me feel that way.
No,
Shane Black. It's a Christmas movie, of course.
It was his directorial debut. Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang.
Right. So he did Iron Man 3 after that. Yeah, right. Because this is right before Downey Jr. exploded with Iron Man. Yeah. He had done Zodiac.
He was the one who was bringing Downey Jr. out of his rehab period.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, because no one was hiring him.
The rehab period is what made Robert Downey Jr.
No,
great.
He was in the 80s, man. He was doing some good stuff.
He was
I don't mean drugs. I mean good movies.
Some real good stuff.
Except for like the pickup
and then it was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Zodiac.
Yeah.
Right before Iron Man.
Did you like Zodiac?
Loved Zodiac.
See, I thought Zodiac should have had like an hour cut off of it.
Yeah, like where he meets the girl again. No, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
It does go on, but that's such a good movie.
Ralph really likes procedurals.
I do like procedurals, and that one is all procedural.
Yeah.
With the little serial killer stuff thrown in.
Yeah.
For fun.
I love serial killer stuff.
Well, I think that was ratings. I'm sorry. The 5-barrel rule, 5 yellow barrels. WOJO, since you picked the movie, what do you rate this one?
I know I rated the last one that I hadn't seen with 5 barrels, so I'm not always a 5-barrel girl, but I would rate this 5. I like it that much. I've seen this movie dozens of times. I just really like this movie.
And you haven't seen House of Games. I asked you that.
No,
before.
I have not.
You should find that one.
Okay.
And see it. I think you'd like that one too. Sean?
Well, the funny thing is, like a movie like this that's a mystery, there's no guarantee of continued enjoyment every time you see it. But I still enjoyed this movie a great deal of time. This may be my second favorite of the Mammoth films that he directed himself. I think like The Verdict was, a fabulous movie that he directed.
Wait a minute. He didn't direct The Verdict.
He didn't. I'm saying, but he wrote it.
Oh, right. He wrote
it. I said of the films he directed himself.
This
is my second favorite. So I'm gonna give it 5 barrels. I know I'm being awfully generous, but people are picking good films. What can I say?
Hassan?
I'm gonna give it.
Wait, Hassan. Go to lunch. Would you just go to lunch?
You Hassan, buy me lunch?
Hassan, tell me what you thought of this movie. Tell me what you thought.
What'd you think?
What'd you think?
I'm not talking anymore. I'm done.
What's your rating? Give us your rating already.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this movie 4 stars.
Barrels.
4 golden barrels.
Yellow.
4 shiny yellow barrels.
Wow. I know the barrel system, and this is my first time.
Right.
I was being repetitive, guys.
Oh, I get it.
Come on.
But the stars, I don't know how you're being. Okay, I'm going to go 4.5.
Is
barrels.
anyone gonna come out of the cave to I don't know if
No, he didn't see that. He hasn't seen it yet.
Okay, I thought he may have.
I'm still under interrogation by maybe someday.
Well, I'm glad you're still phoning something in, because there was one of my favorite podcasts. One of the hosts wasn't there for like 3 episodes, and I'm like, oh my god, I hate this podcast now.
No, we got people.
So hopefully Al's fans will not think that he has gone.
No, he's not gone. He just
I think
went away
some
for
of
a
them are
little bit.
outside. Look,
yeah, they're staring in the window.
No, that's the police.
Oh.
They're here for Al. No.
So that was great. I think you guys should see House of Games. I think you should see Heist.
Yeah.
And get the full.
And everyone should also see Homicide.
Homicides. I haven't seen that in a long time, but I'm going to go.
That might have been my favorite film I saw that year.
I don't know how I had a lot of trouble finding Spanish Prisoner. It's not streaming anywhere. Anything you want to promote? You have Twitter, anything, anywhere anybody wants to see what you...
Oh, yeah. Follow me on Twitter. Follow
Twitter.
me on
I
Twitter.
love Twitter.
It's at the Michelle with 1 L. So it's not Michelle with 1 L. It's at the MICHELE, WOJO. And, yeah, anytime I write about celebrities, I post links
not anymore.
to the stories.
No, we're kidding.
Yeah, I don't think you said anything bad about anybody.
No, I didn't.
No, who was I talking? Somebody mentioned this last night about just what we're talking about. They couldn't believe some movies that people didn't. It was Matt was saying.
Well, you know, when I was talking with Lewis Black, and then I was talking Judy Gold, and Gilbert Gottfried, and Ralph Macchio, and...
By the way, I stole this from Judy Gold. I didn't know I stole it, but on her podcast, every time they mention a Jewish name, they ring.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, but I didn't know that before I started this. I just
Ralph,
wanted it out there.
I heard this rumor about you, that you've never seen any of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Not a one.
You got kids. You didn't even...
Yeah, we don't read, number one. That's part of the problem. I don't watch movies.
Is that a Father of the Year award I see?
You know, you don't have to read to see.
We don't read well.
And you don't have to feed them vegetables either.
You just have to have half your life
Wait a
to
minute,
give
you
away.
don't read, but you watched the movie we discussed in a previous podcast and read the subtitles.
He didn't say he
I'm
was
able
illiterate.
to read.
I know.
Right.
He chooses not to read.
Wow.
He has the capability.
I had a teacher that said those who do not read choose not to read, and those who cannot read are the same.
That's not true. And I know I come off as simple, but I'm not that simple. I don't know. I never get into it, so my kids, if they were into it, I would have gone and slept during it, I guess. I just don't like that whole Middle Earth, fuzzy little
You know,
feet
I
and
keep
little,
trying
can't do it.
to like that. Like I saw the first one, which was like 7,000 hours long, I think. And but it's weird because I do like I like Game of Thrones. I like other,
I've watched none of Game of Thrones. Just no desire.
I sat through all of the Lord of the Rings, and it was like stepping on needles really slowly.
They were great movies, but The Hobbit sucked. There's no reason for The Hobbit to have 3 movies.
Did I tell you I wrote The Hobbit?
Hobbit pronounced like you wrote the
Peter
Hobbit.
Jackson would like
I
to read
did.
your script.
The Hobbit. I will never live that one down.
He always uses... what's his name? Jackson always uses the same screenwriters. I can insult him.
Don't do that.
Well,
I didn't like his version of King Kong either.
Mojo,
we
hope you enjoyed hanging with us.
I did. I was going to tell you guys. I really did enjoy it, and I wouldn't just say that. There's no BS with me. If I didn't enjoy it, I'd say, yeah, uh-huh.
Well, we're the only ones that will hear it anyway.
No, I have a big Twitter following.
Oh, good. Well,
I mean, not like millions, but
doesn't matter.
You know.
5 is good for us.
I have almost 13,000.
Oh, wow!
Yeah.
Wow!
Thank you.
So get it out there. Let's see what happens.
Now. Oh,
all right. Anyway, that's it for today's podcast. We have more coming, but hopefully again we pick movies and we do this. So thanks everybody.
Fun. Thanks for
coming.
Me. Yeah, anytime.
Love having you, WOJO. This was awesome.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Are we off?
We're done.
We're off.
Please join us next time when we discuss the film Natural Born Killers, and check out our website at yippee-ki-yay motherpodcast.com.